If you liked Andor, you really need to be watching The Bad Batch if you're not already doing so, because this is peak Star Wars firing on all cylinders. Today's review, which is episode 3, it's called The Solitary Clone. This episode, oh man, it's actually, I think it's the longest episode of the season so far. This one came closer to 30 minutes, and it's action packed. It has some deep discussions about fascism and what's going on with the Galactic Empire versus the Separatists and what they went through during the war. Clones questioning their identity and the return of some familiar faces. We're going to be talking about all that in today's video. So here's the thing: if you don't want things spoiled, don't watch this yet. Unless you've watched the episode. Go away, watch the episode, come back, and we'll talk. This one I'm doing a day later than I normally do because Willow, the season finale, was out, and then all the news around Paizo and Wizards of the Coast and stuff. So we're here, though. We watched it a day later. So hopefully you've all seen this yet now. Now that we've gotten through all that, quick commercial stuff, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. If you like this episode, do me a solid. Hit that super thanks button down there or join as a member of the channel to support me here, keep me going full time, keep the lights on, the cats fed, and so on and so forth. We'll talk more at the end about other ways you can support, but in the meantime, let's get into the episode. It's time for show notes. So, Solitary Clone is the name of this episode, and I just love this opening shot we've got over this like slave camp, right? There's sirens going off, there's an Imperial shuttle on approach, everyone's running because they're terrified, and it's this Imperial governor arriving. And really quick, we're getting into the oppressive side of the Imperials like right away. Everyone's running in terror, and he comes out and he's like brushing off his jacket. This place is so beneath me. And they're greeted here by the governor, or the governess, I should say, of Desix. And she reminds the Imperial that his order to replace her has zero meaning on this planet. We do not fall under Imperial jurisdiction. So right away we establish that the governess of this place, this woman's got balls. She's standing up to the Imperials and telling them, you have no legitimate anything here. This is our planet. Go away peacefully. And he replies that, as you can see, your request has been rejected. And then, boom, we have a ton of Separatist droids that show up, and she has a message for the Empire. Brilliant. So she takes him captive. It's just, what a great way to start the episode. So we're back then to a droid waking up alone in a cell, eating. No one wants to sit next to him, and it's Crosshair, CT-9904, and he's reporting to Rampart, who we met in the previous season. We also met Crosshair in the previous season. But yeah, Crosshair's back, and seems to be, I don't want to call him psycho, but he was always a little off. But he definitely seems to have had another switch triggered here. When Rampart is like reviewing his case file, he's like, "How many days did you survive on Camino?" And I think he said 32 cycles or 36 cycles, something like that. But it was somewhere in the 30s range. I didn't write that part down. And basically, so after his confrontation, and everything that came to a head in Bad Batch season 1, yeah, he survived. So Rampart has a mission for him, but no squad. He says, you aren't ready to be a commander yet again. Just go report in. And who is his mission commander? Well, none other than Commander Cody, who's also making a return appearance. There's this great scene here in front of this wall, where Cody and Crosshair are talking, and Cody's kind of fishing to satisfy his own curiosity about whether or not Crosshair is still loyal and how he feels about the rest of the Bad Batch betraying the Empire and everything. Crosshair refers to them as traitors like the Jedi, which apparently gives Cody the confirmation that he needs, although he doesn't seem exactly comforted by this admission, and we find out more on that later. But I like when they're back on the planet and we're talking with the governess, we're getting backstory into Dooku wasn't, the bad guy that he was portrayed as in the prequel films. He had a complicated backstory, and this is essentially a good guy doing bad things because he was, as a separatist, doing what he thought was the right thing to destroy what he saw the Republic becoming, which was the Galactic Empire. Unfortunately, he fell to the dark side along the way because he was manipulated, just like everyone else, by Darth Sidious, aka the Emperor. So I like the fact that we're getting more backstory on these characters to flesh out their characters more and help us understand who they were and what their reasonings were. They shoot down the oncoming ship of with the so-called diplomatic envoy, and we this is like the beginning of the action sequences for this episode, which are just amazing. So first off, we've got this landing sequence, and they're being shelled with artillery fire, and eventually get hit and crash. Then we find out that Crosshair and Cody are still alive with a handful of squad members, and they're decimating droids left and right. There's this infiltration scene where they're getting into the base, and the music here, it's just an epic combat sequence. And the fact that this is a longer episode means that we're getting just a very long look how badass these clone soldiers are sequence. I think my favorite scene in the whole series so far has been this scene. Previously, I thought it was the Mace Windu and Count Dooku uh, fight from the previous episode, but that's not the case. This this right here is there's this shot where the sequence of shots where Crosshair is facing down this tank and it's shelling him with artillery shot, but he knows how bad of an aim the droids are, and so he's just standing there, never flinching, sighting in and firing down the barrel of his rifle with the sniper scope, and he's continually refining his shot, right? And so their first shot goes low, too far or too close, and then the next one is high, it's too far away, and he's just on either side of him. Shell fire is hitting, and he's just very calm, cool, and collected. And as that cannon comes down to fire directly on him on the third shot, he shoots right down the barrel and blows up. Sorry, guys, I got excited. Blows up the tank. That is one of the coolest things I've seen in the whole season so far. Then this fight against the Droidicas is really cool because the way they take down the droids with these EMP poppers they've got, as the droid rolls and the shield drops, and they're like boom, and then hit them with grenades and stuff. It's really cool stuff. So again, really nice sequence of events here. We finally get to this circular tower that they're going up, and Crosshair is throwing up these like mirror pucks that land on the wall, and then he's ricocheting his shot off of those around the corners and stuff, which is a little Fast and the Furious, but hey, it's all good. Um, and the shot that he does to take out the tech droid is quite impressive. No lie about that. Um, so as they get into the main chamber here, they find the governess with the governor of the Imperial side with him at gunpoint. And there's this dialogue sequence. This was the most powerful thing, and this brings us into Andor territory here. There is this sequence between the governess of the planet and Cody where they're trying to negotiate, and she's like, there needs to be peace. I saw what your emperor did, and I tried to broker a peace between the separatists and the Republic, and the Supreme Chancellor threw it all away. Peace is never an option. And Cody kind of appears to have bought in hook, line, and sinker because he's giving this speech to the governess about how we're not the enemy. We're just here to establish peace and order. But he also realizes the futility of war, and so he takes his helmet off, puts his weapon down, and he genuinely wants to resolve this peacefully, just like her, because too many people have died already, as he says. As they're talking, Cody eventually convinces her that she can, they can peacefully resolve this, and she lets the governor free, and just like that, he wants to execute her. And Cody's protesting. He's like, I negotiated for a peaceful, and the guy's like, no, you got to execute her. And he's mulling this over, and he looks at her, and she looks at him, and she says, so much for peace. And then here comes the shot from Crosshair, and he just, no questions asked, loyal soldier of the Empire. And Cody's left standing here over the remnants of all of this, pondering the very questions he had asked Crosshair at the beginning of the episode when he was asking about his feelings regarding the Empire. And then we get that Blade Runner music again as we're coming out, and the Empire's rounding everyone up. There's just this dismal scene with a Star Destroyer overhead, trooper pods landing and dropping more troops off, and Cody's looking on sort of in destitution as he realizes what he's a part of, but he can't leave. He's so into it. And he reminds Cody as they're getting back to the planet and looking in front of this mural of names that the only thing that separates them from the droids is their free will and the fact that they have to live with the consequences of their actions or inactions. And the next sequence is Crosshair waking up in the morning, getting called to Rampart's office, getting assigned another mission, and realizing that Cody has gone AWOL. So he finally reached his breaking point as well. So just This is definitely the darkest episode of the season so far. We're just into episode 3, and it was like, oh man, you guys are hitting us with the feels right out of the gate. Um, so I love this episode. My favorite episode of the season so far. Obviously, we're really early in, but I have been loving everything that's coming out of the Star Wars teams recently with, Andor and this the writing here. Obviously, this is a show that's primarily for children, but adults can find deep meaning in this too if they just sit and listen for a little bit. It's really powerful stuff and it's really well done. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me on this episode. Can't wait to see more. Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Please support. Super thanks down below. Memberships. There's a Patreon page. You can also do super chats on live streams and premieres. Don't forget the Discord channel. May the force be with you, everybody. See you in the next episode.